Now it's a great pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Madi Franceschini, who will talk about brain maturation.
Thank you. I think I really like this format, and I'll try to be as short as possible. So I will talk about measuring oxygen metabolism with NIRS, near-infrared spectroscopy, and my work in Africa on the topic. But let's start where things started, that is like 13 years ago, when I had a study measuring infants' oxygenation, cerebral oxygenation, during the first year of life. And even if nowadays IRB tell you don't enroll your family, we did it. And that's my son, and these are the results of the first week of life, oxygenation, and it dropped 5%. And David, all excited, oh, our son is getting smarter, he's using oxygen. And he was so happy about that. And then it dawned on us, there is all these measurements, these growth charts for height, weight, and head circumference, and there is really nothing that tell you brain maturation, brain growth. And we thought this is very important, and maybe this is the right tool. So NIRS alone, oxygenation, was not the right tool. And the drop that you see there the first week is just a decrease in hematocrit. It has nothing to do with the brain. It has to do with the fact that fetal hemoglobin rate of depletion is faster than the growth of adult hemoglobin. So there is less red blood cell in your body, and there is less oxygenation. So, and this was confirmed by measuring not just our son, but many kids. If you look across ages, you don't really see differences in oxygenation in the brain, and you don't see regional difference, age difference. Is always about 65%. So what you really need to measure is oxygen metabolism, and to measure oxygen metabolism, you need oxygenation and perfusion, blood flow. So if you combine the two, then you can get a value that maybe matches brain development. So, and if we do that in the same study, you can see that CMR2 more than doubles during the first year of life, and it increases. We saw increases that are regional and not just with age, like the temporal and parietal cortex develop first, and there is more oxygen metabolism there with respect to the frontal cortex that start to develop around 6 months of age. And the oxygenation constants, they look like your body in healthy development make perfusion match consumption, and so oxygenation stay constant. And this is not just NIRS and oxygen metabolism. This is happening also with glucose uptakes. So these are seminal studies done in the 80s that will never be repeated because they're ethically, you cannot do PET in kids. But you can see there is an increase in glucose uptake during the first year of age. So because of, without this will work, we had an SBIR, and with the company we built a system called the MetaOx that measured both the NIRS side, the oxygenation, and the blood flow side with a device called DCS. So I'll be very brief here. So frequency domain, this side of the device, what it does is send radiofrequency modulated light at different colors. And so when you measure at the detector, not just the attenuation of light due to the absorption, but also phase shift because you travel through the tissue. And these two parameters together allow you to measure absorption and scattering of the tissue you measure. And from the multiple wavelength, you can get hemoglobin oxygenation and concentration. Diffuse correlation spectroscopy is not looking at attenuation of light. Is looking at sending a long coherence length source, detecting single speckle, and looking at the intensity fluctuation due to the speckle, to the motion of the red blood cell, essentially. And if you do intensity correlation function, that curve plotted there, it tells you the time that the light become non-correlated. And that time is faster if the motion is faster. So the decay will be much faster. So with that, we can measure blood flow. And this device measures them simultaneously, like FD-NIRS in one location on your head, very fast, and it's super robust. It's the favorite device of my students, my postdoc, because you just turn it on and work, and it's very robust. It's so robust that we decided, why not bringing it in Africa? So we had the opportunity to participate to a nutritional intervention study. So essentially what happened with the brain is if you are malnourished when you're a kid, there is stunting. The brain doesn't grow, doesn't develop properly. So there is a lot of studies to see if you provide some food, some essential nutrients at some age to see if you can ameliorate this stunting. And so nutritional studies are very large, so for my view was I will be able to measure a lot of kids and see if I can see differences there. So we not just went to Africa, we went to one of the poorest places in the earth. That was West Africa. And if I zoom in the west side of Africa, Guinea-Bissau is that little country over there. And now we wanted to measure really malnourished kids, so we had to go in remote villages. So these villages don't have anything. They don't have electricity, anything. We were staying in a little bit bigger town, this town over here and this town over here, San Domingo and Bisseau, that had one place where we could sleep that was a little bit more decent, and they had some electricity at some hour during the day. But then every day we had to do 1 hour kind of jeep tour with all our equipment to get to the villages. And the room where we were doing measurements, really, there were goats outside, and the inside it was really super dirty. So if I go inside the room, we're right in, this actually is a UNICEF school, so it's a little bit better. We're right in the morning, we had to clean everything because there is awful dust. We have to unpack everything. We had to settle the device, make sure they worked. So we went there 3 times, and the first time was perfect weather. The second time was super dry, so the dust was like crazy. The third time was monsoon season, so the humidity was giving us a different kind of problem with the instrumentation. But always was around the 40 degrees Celsius, so we had all these fans cooling the equipment. And we had our own generator. And then all the kids started coming, and we measured them really fast. We just kept the NIRS probe in the head for 10 seconds, and we measured 4 locations in the forehead, and that's it. And it took about 2 minutes per kids in average. In parallel to us, there was the nutritional study that was measuring all the anthropometric, biochemical, and cognitive tests. So that was great. So every kids we measure, we kind of knew everything. And this was done at the beginning of the study and at the end of the study, so with 6 months difference in the study. So in total is Africa. We didn't measure all the kids enrolled in the nutritional study. We didn't measure all of them at the beginning and at the end. Essentially, the study started at different time for different kids, and we went there only 2 times. But we were able to measure 858 kids, and these are the growth charts for these kids that we measure. And boy are blue and girl are pink, and you can see the height and the weight grow with the age, but the red line is the WHO normative values. These are about 25% lower because they're malnourished. And then there is what happened to my measurements. So you can see oxygenation, blood flow, and oxygen metabolism. And what we see is there is this change is very small. It's just 2%. Is is significant because there is a lot of kids, but this blood flow and oxygen metabolism, they are kind of constant the first 3 years, and then they drop. This is between 2 years to 7 years of age, and there is a big drop. And if I look at the glucose uptake during that period, we see the same drop. So it kind of makes sense that essentially there is the formation of the synapses, a lot of oxygen metabolism, and then there is the pruning, and there is going to adulthood, there is oxygen metabolism decreases. So there is a peak around 2 years of age. So we started measuring past that peak. So this is the first part of the results. Then there is the nutritional study. The nutritional studies consisted, so the intervention was 6 months, and there were 3 groups that were randomized in each village. And essentially, if kids in one family had the same food, but different family in the same village had different kind of food, there was the control that was just rice every morning, and then the other 2 food were 300 kilocalories per day extra. They included new formulations, that was the one that TAS was studying, and USAID fortified food that is used traditionally for these kids to improve malnutrition. And these are the results. So the results, this is a paired analysis, and because we measure about 150 kids only pre and post, there are about 40-50 kids in each group. But still, there is a strong, significant difference between pre and post with the new TAF supplement that is kind of encouraging. I wish we could measure all the 1,200 kids, but we will have had to stay there too long. So we are very excited of this work. We think there is a lot of we need to improve on the device side to make sure we collect data without artifacts, but there is to become individual. Right now, it works only if you look at the big populations. And so if I have few words, I think I do because I've been good. In addition to the science, the experience has been amazing. To go there, to go in these remote places, and to be able to go back in this place and establish a relationship with the people there. It was just amazing. I would have never thought I would have had this opportunity. People there have a simple life, but they're mostly happy. And they're really, really, really friendly, and they make you reassess what's important and what's not important, and how much you waste here, and how much life can be simpler, even if that's a little bit of an extreme, because really they have nothing. So I want to conclude on these notes. Thank you.